Richardson Hitchins, after his impressive victory over George Kambosos Jr. on the weekend, had some interesting things to say about free agency and his relationship with Eddie Hearn. Have a listen to what he said.
You know, like I said, I want to thank Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and in 2 years getting my career to the top. I'm going into free agency now, so there's a lot of options, and I want the big fights. You know, after my last fight, I called Teofimo out right away. You know, obviously he got other plans, so I don't know what's next.
I suppose the overriding question for Barry Hearn's son is loyalty a big thing, part of it? Do you think fighters owe promoters and trainers loyalty? In this instance, as a promoter.
Situational, I think. I think when a promoter's brought a fighter through and gave him the opportunities and put investment into him, then there should be an element of that loyalty, as long as that respect's been shown both ways. I think if you're already picking up a well-named fighter and you have one fight of them or whatever, a bit like what Canelo's doing, that's a totally different situation.
Because we had that big argument there with last year, which I know all about, which in terms of Frank and Anthony Yard and Tundi getting his two penneth in there, and there's some degree of loyalty that potentially they should have shown Frank given the fights that they've been made. Does it cut both ways with trainers as well, in terms of trainers showing loyalty to fighters?
I actually have trainers, you mean fighters showing loyalty?
And trainers showing loyalty to fighters?
I totally, we was having this conversation before back there. I totally disagree with that, being honest. I think that us as coaches are there to supplement. We are there to supplement the fighter's career, not the other way around. So if a fighter genuinely believes the best move for my career is to change trainer, that's their career. They're entitled to make that decision.
Hit, you get a multitude of chances.
They shouldn't be, I need to be loyal to him because he spent some time. Because at the same time, I've put some time into fighters that have moved on. Yeah. Other coaches have put time into fighters that have then come to me. It happens like that. But at the end of the day, we must not forget that as coaches, we are there to supplement the fighters, not the other way around.
But on the flip side of that, if the trainer has brought the fighter through from the beginning and the fighter and he's put in all the hard work and you know what work goes in and what comes back, and for trainers, there's a lot of work and very little money comes back, doesn't even weigh up, right? So you get that kid to that level, all of a sudden, boom, he's cracked it, he's making that money. Then the fighter says, you know what? I decided to go elsewhere. That's where the loyalty should be, though, because you've taken him from the beginning.
If the fighter believes that for the best for my career is to move somewhere else, he's more entitled. He's
has to be ruthless.
100% entitled to that.
Has to be ruthless.
The coach should not be looking at that and going, "Oh, well, you need to pay me back for that time that I put in." And that, if that's the reason why you're doing it at the start, make that clear. I'm doing this so that when we get there, I'm receiving the money back for the time that I've put in here.
What do you make of Eddie Hearn suggesting that Turki Al-Sheikh won't put him onto any of their fight cards if he's not represented?
Sorry, just one more on that trainer thing. Sorry, just on that as well. And if you genuinely are a good enough coach, fighters will come to you, and those situations you will end up.
They won't want to when they get to that.
Yeah, and at the same time, even if somebody does move, you're a good coach doing good work. Somebody else has put some time might want to come to you. It's the way the world works. But as coaches, we are there to supplement the fighters, and the fighters must be allowed to do what they feel is best for their career.
So what do we feel then, going back to my point, which is the actual quote, was Hitchin won't fight unless he's under Matchroom, which is what Turkey's told Barry Hearn's son.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, if he's under contract with him, then he shouldn't break his contract. But if he's not under contract, he should be able to do what he wants. I mean, you've got on one hand Turkey saying that I'm going to do my own boxing league and everyone else, promoters should be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Now we're being told that ultimately, irrespective of where the fighter wants to stay with the promoter. By the same token, if the fighter believes that going with a better trainer advances his career, he's entitled to do that, right? Because they're there to supplement them. A promoter is there to supplement a fighter's career as well as make dough out of him. If the fighter has decided contractually he's able to do it, that can't be right, can it?
Well, I think
that
what Hitchins was alluding to there was he's saying now he is a free agent and he's open to offers and opportunities and everything else, and now. We read that, where was that, in Ring Magazine or something, that is saying basically you have to work with Eddie Hearn if we're going to give you those fights or whatever it is. Well, if that is the opportunity and it makes sense, then that's what it is.
Kind of flies in the face. I mean, mixed messages from Turkey, though, isn't it? In terms of what he does and doesn't want to do. He half the time wants to leapfrog over people and talk direct to the fighters himself.
Well, I think basically what he was saying there was, listen, you will get those opportunities, work alongside Eddie, and those opportunities will present themselves. And I think that's basically what Hitchins wants as well.
Situational as well. Like, I think he sees that Eddie's put time and money into, and as the boxer, and manager and coach, you need to be aware that if you think
there's an investment in you.
Yeah, it's purely business for the promoter.
Yeah, I get it.
And he's put time and effort into him to get him to where he's got to. So
he wants some of the rewards for it. Okay, Ben, let's get into Fabio Wardley. I was there at Portman Road to watch that spectacular knockout, slightly difficult fight. Dust has settled. What's your takeaways?
Pretty much how we expected, to be honest. I didn't need to see that fight to know Justice Hooney is a top-level fighter. I totally understand there's a lot of people that wasn't aware of Justice Hooney's skill set. Really, really good fighter. I think I saw Fabio mention to yourself that he was very open and honest with him that you're not going to bank rounds against Justice Hooney. It wasn't going to happen. However, we felt that there was going to be some situations and scenarios that were going to open up for him to capitalise on, and he has the capabilities to be able to capitalise on those, and he managed to do it after a really rough period.
Was you surprised actually that he was, because I mean he was falling behind on the scorecards by quite a margin. He got to the stage where he needed a knockout. Were you, or did Fabio say that he was actually surprised but just how good Justice Hooney was? I know you said that you was expecting something, but he delivered.
Yeah, not at all. I've said for a long time, I think Justice, I was being honest, totally honest, and you just mentioned it there about Filip Hrgović. You like that fight?
I do.
He was above the list. Justice Hooney was the last on our list to say that's a good matchup for you, Fabio. He was the last on our list. Unfortunately, he was the one that made sense and was available. So we knew it was a really tough style matchup. He's a very, very good boxer with very high IQ. And we knew that Fabio wasn't going to bank rounds. Being honest, the first 3 rounds, I was a bit shocked at how Fabio was doing. He was banking some rounds there. Landed at the end of the first in a situation that we'd worked on. And then got caught up in what was our concern, to overthinking it, trying to think in the moment with Justice Hooney, and he was never going to get.
Did you get worried during the fight? Because I mean, I looked at the way the fight was going, and I thought that he started very brightly, and I thought the first round he categorically banked, and then Justice Hooney took over, and I thought it was times during the sort of mid 6, 7, 8s that he began to look a bit dispirited, Fabio. Is that a fair reflection, or is it just the body language of the time and you weren't overly concerned? You knew the situation? Because it looked to me like, it didn't look to me, it was fact, wasn't it? If he didn't knock him out, the fight was going to be lost, wasn't it?
I was.
So what kind of advice are you giving to him at that time in the corner? What are you saying to him? When you're watching this fight, you're saying it's going according to plan, but it can't be the plan to be so far behind that you need a shot like that to take him out. What are you telling him in the corner to say to keep him focused? So
you get a lot of people shouting just the standard advice like jab. The problem is against Justice Hooney, he's a very good counter puncher. So it's like playing a game of slaps. If I held my hand out and you try and slap it and I hit the back of my hand, how do I stop you from being able to time that? I've got to mix up my timing and feint. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yeah. So while people are shouting jab, it's very easy to just shout it out, but that would get him into trouble. So it was just a case of, through the fight, mentioning when these scenarios are available, how to keep focused on them and how to negate those bad moments and not
take an opportunity when
allow them to be as bad as possible. Of course, being that many rounds down, it's not ideal.
No.
But he was very made aware of, as were some other people that I spoke to before the fight, that we did not expect him to bank rounds. Wasn't going to happen. You compared him after the fight to Deontay Wilder, which is a nice comparison for the upside of Deontay Wilder, but it might be a slightly disconcerting comparison because we know that Wilder, when he got on top, got found out. In order for Fabio to travel the direction he's going in against the higher caliber fighters, is a Deontay Wilder comparison, as realistic as it might be, going to be the solution to Fabio, or have you got what you've got now and it really is that? No, I just think style. So, for example, we was talking about David Adelaide. Fabio won the majority of the rounds against David Adelaide. Got a draw majority of the round. Shared the rounds with Fraser Clark, an Olympic silver medalist. Justice Hooney was a world youth gold medalist. Very, very good boxer. It just happened to be that stylistically, it wasn't a good matchup, so he wasn't going to bank rounds. Doesn't mean he's not capable of banking rounds. And at the same time, I slightly disagree with your appointment on the Deontay Wilder thing because he got found out against elite. Yeah. You know? But that's where you're travelling, isn't it? That's where you're going to travel to. Of course, but at the same time, I think, Fabio. This is what works for Fabio as well. I think I mentioned this to you before the Lee Wood fight. He doesn't try to delude himself that he's aware of what he is. Yeah, I'm going to outbox Justice Hooney. If we can be very open and honest with him. But is it fair to say,
before I ask you about who he goes to next, that if Justice Hooney had hit a bit harder, he might have found himself in real trouble.
You could say that, but at the same time, if he hit a bit harder, he might have been a bit more aggressive and walked onto one early on.
Oh, here's one for you. So,
If buts and maybes.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fabio hurt him at the end of the first.
Watching that fighter go, look, he showed incredible character and resilience. When he's coming back to that corner, and I know that fighters can get disheartened and like things are not going, and you're getting into those later rounds, coming close to the penultimate rounds. Was he getting dispirited in the corner, and how did you turn that around? Like, because he couldn't have still been thinking after round 9. Because I saw him walking back to the corner, and I'm thinking, he needs picking up here, because I can tell the body language of a fighter, and I go, he's at this stage where he might, like, he could break at any point. How did you turn that around?
Boxing is partly a performance as well, and body language is the conversation you're having, because you're not speaking to each other. And I think sometimes, as both of you have mentioned, his body language doesn't look great at times, but it's something that we're used to seeing, and it's actually frustration as opposed to, He's
not demoralised.
Not demoralised, it's frustration. That's a lack of experience. When we talk about Fabio's experience, that's one of those things.
And it would have also been compounded by the fact he knew in this fight where he was fighting. And so the double-edged sword of wanting to go in there, do it in such a way, and it's being made to look difficult for him, or it was difficult for him. I wanted to ask you about where he goes next. I mean, there's a little bit of a Twitter thing going back and forward with Derek Chisora, isn't there? There's an opportunity potentially against the WBA regular champion in Kubrat Pulev. Where do you see this landing, Ben?
From my understanding, I think Kubrat Pulev might be boxing Michael Hunter, and they're supposed to be fighting the winner of that. Whether that's how it will play out, I'm not sure. I'm not the management, not the promoter. I don't know how that will play out, or if that fight will happen. So I'm not sure, to be honest.
But where would you like to see him?
I just think the biggest opportunity, like I said, Fabio's under no illusion, like, the biggest opportunity and the best opportunity for him, he needs to take, because he's in for a shout, because he hits so hard, and he's so...
I like that.
He's got so much cojones, should I say.
And he don't get dispirited, which we saw there.
He's brave, and I think he's in for a shout against anybody.
Simon, question for you. Do you think Fabio Wardley has the capability of becoming a world heavyweight champion?
For the character of the man, yes. Depends who he's matched against. Depends what opportunity comes his way. If you were putting him in against Alexander Usyk, absolutely not. I would debate if you put him in against Daniel Dubois, but depends who he gets his opportunity against. If you think about someone that's morphed into things, bettered himself and done everything that's been asked of him, and every time there's a challenge, he's taken it up. And most fights, everyone's gone, he's going to come up short, he's going to come up short here. So I'd like to think if the right opportunities match properly, which is what Frank does and you'll be part of, that, he gets that opportunity. And if he gets the right fight, then I do. But not against the guys I've already just said. And I don't think that's controversial, is it?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, I think he's always got a puncher's chance because he's very dangerous and will commit. So he's always got that in the bank. But I don't think what you said, like you said, I don't think it's controversial what you said there.
Let's wait and see.